It's not often that I get visitors. I am Tetsuo Crumb. The ignorant of harvest call me the Wasp Woman. A pejorative, no doubt, born of fear and a poverty of imagination.
I don't understand.
The politics of honey, the Judeo-Christian rites of sacrifice and conventional taboos against unbridled pleasure are all responsible for the prejudice against wasps. The politics of honey are intertwined with the age-old struggle of the aesthetic versus the commercial. Because I choose to raise wasps instead of bees, I'm frowned upon by the community. Why? Well, raising bees is acceptable because they produce honey. But sometimes it's not what is produced, so much as what is performed.
I don't see any particular use for wasps.
Why must everything have a use? Is money always the determining factor? More slender, more aerodynamic than the bee, the wasp is a joy to behold. Beautiful and juicy. Isn't that enough to compensate for the little drawbacks? Well, as you can see, the little darlings do love to sting. Another source of prejudice for the masses, and another reason to love them. Bees are like animals. They sting only for a reason, for sacrifice. They have no conception of individual sensation, of pleasure. When a bee stings, it rips itself apart and dies for its audacity. This appeals to those raised worshipping a god that demands sacrifice and atonement. But the wasp is promiscuous. They are not as sympathetic to the masses, because they don't die when they sting. They live to sting another day, and they take pleasure from it. Yes, a great deal of pleasure. The wasp is a sensual being, not a laborer, hedonistic instead of industrial. Some think them quick to anger. In truth, they are easily swayed to ecstasy. They penetrate your flesh, and the muscular contractions in their thorax as they pump venom could be likened to the muscular contractions of ejaculation, each painful welt, an act of love. Regard the wasp. Wasps produce nothing for others, but only for themselves. Wasps build nests and more wasps, nothing more. They spread into eaves and attics, not to make honey for supermarkets, but to buzz and rustle on their own paper, perpetuating their own agenda, growing stealthily, surely. The most relentless of insects.
Hello, Steve. How's the husband-to-be?
Other than having no memory, I guess I'm alright.
All right. You should be ecstatic, considering what your getting into, if you haven't gotten into it already. Speaking of which, I heard Stephanie was grounded. Her daddy's worried about getting his meat. Though if I were him, I'd be more concerned about Stephanie getting some meat.
Right. And you are...
You always were a kidder, Steve. I'm Mr. Johnson, remember? Glad you stopped by. Just got finished waxing the Tucker. I could use a little relaxation. But since Edna's not here, I might as well talk to you. Edna Fitzpatrick is one of the snootiest women in town. I declare there isn't a woman in Harvest that turned me away. If I was interested, that is. Just because she owns DNAs, she's got all these highfalutin ideas about independence, and her with a little girl to raise. That child needs a father. And Edna, well, she needs a good hard penis. I'll admit DNA's darn does good business. But money isn't everything to a woman. Can money keep you warm at night? Can you wrap your thighs around it? Or rake bloody gashes in its back with your painted hollowed fingernails? Edna! Edna! So, how's Stephanie? Speaking of Stephanie, I still haven't gotten an invitation to the wedding yet.
I don't have anything to do with that.
That's okay. Personally, I'd prefer a pass to the honeymoon. You could use the back seat of my Tucker for the maiden voyage. It's plenty big, believe you me. I'd drive you around, and I wouldn't look in the back seat, I guarantee it. Though if you'd like to come up front and take the wheel a while, I wouldn't say nay. Heck of an automobile, isn't she? Damn shame I have to sit out here and watch over her all the time. But if I didn't, those stupid kids might scratch her up playing ball. Hell yes, it's real. I wouldn't be so protective of her if she was just a reproduction. I'm mighty particular about my Tucker. I had the garage remodeled like a fortress, so I could lock her up at night and get some sleep.
I'm sure she's safe enough inside.
A few months back, someone broke into my house, trying to get into the garage. I had to gripe like hell before the sheriff agreed to start the evening patrols and instigate the curfew.
What makes you so sure she needs a penis?
You saying Edna's getting it from someone else? Like maybe that damn Sheriff Dwayne? He's over at DNA's diner every day from noon to 1, eating his dadgum pie. And I got a feeling he'd like Edna for dessert. Sure, it's the only diner in town, but I'm sure he's got more on his mind than food. Bye now.
Stephen,
Who are you?
I am Daniel Moynihan, mortician and proprietor of the Wayward Hotel.
Most people ask me why I don't remember their names.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve. Besides, as one who deals with the dead, I try not to involve myself in the affairs of the living. Your loss of memory is of no concern to me, true or false. Ironic, considering my recent involvement in a charity event.
What are you talking about?
My complaints were central to the scheduling of the upcoming Harvest Bake Sale. I'm gratified the Order of the Harvest Moon got involved. The proceeds will certainly help cover my losses. This bake sale is a joint effort of the Harvest PTA and the Order of the Harvest Moon. The proceeds will be used to set up a fund for transients. In other words, bums and societal rejects without families who wander into Harvest uninvited.
Then, the Order is setting up shelters for the homeless?
Not shelters. Graves. You see a great number of these hobos die while passing through. Don't ask me why, it's what those people do. Use your common sense, Stephen, memory or no. If they were involved in setting up homeless shelters, then why would I be involved? And why would I be sustaining losses? It seems that, like some elephant's graveyard, people of low station come to Harvest to die. They simply drop dead, penniless, and they all need burials. God knows, by putting these people up at the Wayward Hotel, I do more than my fair share. So why must I pay for the coffins and burial materials as well? My losses to the dead are substantial. Hopefully the bake sale will offset some of them. This bake sale is a joint effort of the Harvest PTA and the Order of the Harvest Moon. The proceeds will be used to set up a fund for transients.
Then,
Not. As always, the Order of the Harvest Moon has taken the lead in addressing our societal ills. Through their sponsorship of the blood drive and the bake sale, the Lodge ensures that all our needs are met.
needs. Such as...
Pardon me, there are corpses to prepare, and my losses have been substantial of late. If you're sincerely interested in the Order, however, you should stop by the Lodge and speak with the Sergeant-at-Arms.
Why should I be interested, Mr. Moynihan?
Of all the spots in Harvest, the Lodge is the most prominent, literally and figuratively. It is the ambition of everyone here to join, and join you must to attain wisdom.
What kind of wisdom?
If I knew, I'd be a member. I have the feeling you have what it takes to join the Order, Stephen. We all believe that. Whether or not you live up to your potential is up to you. You're spouting gibberish. I'd say it's been a pleasure, but I find the company of the living so wearisome.
Please excuse the mess. They've done wonders with the upstairs bedroom, but this garage defies color coordination.
Don't bother me, I'm sketching. Oh, look what you made me do!
I don't converse on the job, Steve.
Hello, Steve. Welcome to the House of Flame, as we like to call it. Oh, cut it out, Spots, honestly. Once he gets barking, a good piece of meat is the only way to shut him up. There you go, Spot. So, Steve, bet you don't remember me. Heard about that short in the old wiring. I'm Fire Marshal Sparky, head of your fire department. Don't be silly. Everyone thinks that amnesia kick is a scream. Well, you always were a kidder, Steve. Besides, it's my job to keep abreast of developments in the community to better serve you, the public. I'm sure you'll be thrilled when you learn of the many civic improvements we have planned for your fire department.
Such as...
Well, don't tell any of the others, but I've secured a bolt of the most divine mauve material. I've hidden it because, well, if any of these Marys got a hold of it, it'd be gone in a jiffy. So I'd rather keep it hush-hush. I'm going to make new drapes for the firehouse, and if I have any left, cross your fingers, I'm going to make everyone matching mauve pillow cozies.
Those are civic improvements.
Don't be such a party pooper, Steve. We're talking about our future. Besides, we haven't had a fire in Harvest since the newspaper building burned down. Though I'll admit that the Wasp Woman's place is one big accident waiting to happen. Isn't that right, Spots? Art enriches the community, Steve. No less than a pulsing fire hose or a fireman beating down a blazing door. So what if we're drawing a nude man? So what if all we ever draw is a nude man, or the same nude man over and over in all sorts of provocative positions? Context, not content. Process, not subject. Don't be so ghost, Steve. It's beneath you. A dreadful affair. You wouldn't think that a brick and steel building with a sprinkler system could go up that quickly.
7835, code 6, 105 North Avenue, 52.
Oh, please. Dwayne was glad enough to see the thing go up, and so was McKnight. If you could get into that safe in his wall... Forget it. Look, Steve, as far as I know, the fire was an accident. Let's just leave it at that. Now don't you go moving. Some people think all we do is sit around, fetching examples of manhood for our own amusement. Nothing could be further from the truth. Why, just the other day we cited Tetsuo Crumb for fire code violations. All the dried out paper wasp nests clustered around our wooden house, why, it's a chemlog just waiting for the right faggot. Believe me, none of us wants to see another fiasco like the Sentinel fire. Spots is a dandy watchdog, but like the rest of us, he has one awful vice. None of us can resist a nice cut of meat. Bye-bye.
That's the evidence room, where we store items lifted from crime scenes. It's kept locked at all times. There's things in there that could make people jump through hoops, if I wanted.
Hey, can I help you, kiddo?
Are you the sheriff?
Nope, I'm Deputy Loomis. Don't you remember?
No, I don't.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve. Anything I can help you with? Help yourself. Speaking of which, you're real lucky to be marrying Stephanie. She don't look like a good woman. I just hope she don't turn out like Mrs. Loomis, or mercy forbid Mrs. Phelps. Good women can be awful hard on a man's needs, don't you know? Why, you sure ought to appreciate what a man's got to do sometimes in a parked car, or a waist-high knothole in a tree, or jail cell at noon. Matter of fact, Mrs. Phelps got no reason not to sell you some of them French postcard girly picture books. If you can get any, it's see clear to part with them. Bring them round when the sheriff's at lunch, and I'd be obliged. Of course, I don't necessarily mean French postcards. That's just what we called them in my day. Any kind of girly picture book, the kind men like, would be just dandy. I'd be right grateful, kiddo, if you were to bring me one. Mrs. Phelps down at the general store don't help things none. She's got them special picture books, the one with the ladies, but she won't sell me none on account of she knows my wife, Mrs. Loomis. Dadgum if that don't burn my britches. If I even ask about 'em, she tells Mrs. Loomis, and I get the broom. Enough to break a man's heart. Her burning my French postcards and me unable to replace them. A man's got needs, don't you know? Don't know what you mean, kiddo. Oh gosh, I wish I had some of them girly pictures, but Mrs. Loomis won't let me keep 'em in the house. I still remember the time she caught me holding some of them pictures up with one hand. She took the broom to me. I howled like a hound dog, the broom going up and down, flashing straw and blood and straw, and I drooped. I was crying so bad, and it was so hard I had to crawl under the porch naked with all the black winter spiders, and I got bit something fierce, little fangs are digging into my bare behind all over. I ask you, is that any way to treat a man? And Mrs. Phelps and the sheriff don't make it no easier neither. If Sheriff Dwayne had a little kindness, he let me get around the little lady by letting me keep some of them picture books here, even if Mrs. Phelps would let me buy one. But see, he won't let me keep none here neither. He don't like me getting the jail mattress all marked up, don't you know? Sometimes a man can be good with a gun or a knife, But even so, one-handed and all, he can get a little off in his aim. Ain't no shame in it. That's why the good Lord made evaporation and such. But the sheriff, he don't like it, and don't pay no mind to a man's needs no more than Mrs. Loomis, bless her. Any time, kiddo.
Hello, Steve. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sheriff Dwayne, and this here is Loomis.
Pleasure, I reckon.
Then, we haven't met before?
Of course we have. But I heard about your alleged amnesia and figured I'd play along. I sure hope this is just a prank and not the start of some insanity plea. Keep your nose clean or you'll wind up in jail, and that's no place to hold a wedding. Why do you want to break your poor mama's heart with all this amnesia bunk?
I'm telling you the truth. Why won't anyone believe me?
Well, you've always been a kidder, Steve.
Yeah, so everybody keeps telling me.
Boy, you need to stop all this funning and get serious. You've got a wedding coming up soon. Heck, you should be thinking about your career and about joining the lodge. Amnesia or no, you can't have forgotten you're about to marry the prettiest little thing in Harvest. I think you and Stephanie are perfect for each other. I just hope her father's disappointment doesn't spoil everything.
Disappointment?
Mr. Potsdam wants to hold the wedding in the lodge, but he'll never get in. Like all the rest, he's always hanging around the post office the first day of the month, waiting for Boyle to bring out that month's lodge applications. And there's always a long line, never enough applications to go around, and even if you do get an application, chances are you're right out of luck. Fewer called to the order and even less accepted. And Potsdam, well, they've turned him down so many times, unless he does something radical, he'll never get in. Crime-wise, nothing much has happened in Harvest since the newspaper fire. Oh, sure, every week or so we get the odd transient dropping dead, but other than that, it gets pretty slow around here. We get a lot of bums, drifters passing through Harvest. Those people are never very healthy to start with. I figure they come to our fair town, look around, and decide it's a nice place to die.
You mean they drop dead here on a regular basis?
Like flies. I'd slap 'em all in jail if I could, but there's never enough room. Besides, they're pretty good about not sticking around long. Sure, it's a burden on Mr. Moynihan, though, having to bury them all. I only hope the PTA Lodge bake sale will help out along those lines. Now that's a place you don't want to wind up, boy. We've got a 3 strikes and you're out rule here in Harvest. You get arrested the 3rd time, you never get out of jail alive. So don't go committing any crimes, boy. Amnesia or no, I'll lock you up pronto. Stop on by any time, Steve.
Hi, what's your name?
Karen,
What are you doing?
playing. My mom is working, so I gotta stay out of her hair. Wanna play?
Not now, maybe later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Hello there, Steve. Here for lunch?
No, just here looking around. Though I'm not entirely sure where here is.
Oh, I forgot. You're playing your little amnesia prank. Well, boy, this is DNA's Diner. Isn't that right, Edna?
Don't listen to Sheriff Dwayne. This is Edna's Diner. But ever since the E burned out on the sign, they've been giving me a hard time.
Now, don't be like that, Edna. It's a great place to eat, which is good, since it's the only place to eat in Harvest. Stop on by any time, Steve.
Oh, Steve, what are you doing, sneaking up on me like that? God, for a second I thought you were Mr. Johnson. What would you like to order? Sure. And my name's Edna Fitzpatrick. I'm not the one with amnesia.
Then you believe me.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve.
I guess I've changed. I'm not kidding.
Now, Steve, faking amnesia won't help anything. If you don't want to marry Stephanie, then don't. But don't play sick, for heaven's sake. I'd expect that from Karen, not an 18-year-old. You've met Karen, my 8-year-old. Other than the diner, she's all I have. There isn't a nicer girl in Harvest than Stephanie, Steve. You should be grateful that she's promised you her hand.
I don't remember that happening, Edna.
Honestly, you men are so childish. I don't know what it is about marriage that turns even the bravest man into a coward. I was going to marry Karen's father when he just up and ran out on me one night. I heard that he joined the lodge, but if he did, I never saw him come out again. Even Sheriff Dwayne wasn't able to find out what happened to him. Mr. Johnson has a liking for me. I'd call it a crush, but that's too innocent a word. He's a bitter man with too much time on his hands. He's never gotten over being rejected by the lodge, and there's something unwholesome in the way he looks at me. I'm always glad when the sheriff comes in every day at noon. The lodge is the repository of all wisdom. You should join the Order of the Harvest Moon, Steve, and soon.
Why? For God's sake, what is it about this place?
The wheat ripens and waits not for the scythe. The farmer who waits too long, it were better that he used the scythe to rip his own stomach out than to stay his scythe when the wheat ripens. The harvest moon wanes and then comes winter. An empty belly, the body sun's belly, gurgling within or bloody on the ground. What does it benefit a man if he gains his soul and loses the world? You hunger. Feed yourself before it's too late. Oh.
Edna?
Steve. What happened? Were we talking about Boyle? Or was it Karen?
You seemed strange there for a minute.
I'm sorry. I'm under a lot of stress. Running this diner all alone. Forgive me. Stop by anytime, Steve.